We're going to take the third D this morning, which is doing the work. Okay, doing the work, dads. And moms too, but dads especially. Luke 19, verse 12, therefore he said, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. So he called 10 of his servants, delivered to them 10 minas, and said to them, do business till I come. But his citizens hated him and sent a delegation after him, saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. And so it was, by the way, that's a reference of a picture of when Christ leaves and the people say, he might be the king, but we're not going to have him reign over us. That's exactly what our world has done. So it was that when he returned, and Christ will return one day, having received the kingdom, he then commanded these servants to whom he had given the money to be called to him, and he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Master, your mina has in turn earned 10 minas. By the way, we said a mina last week was about worth 3 months' pay. And he said to him, well done, good servant, because you were faithful in a very little, have authority over 10 cities. I find it interesting that because he was faithful over 3 months' worth of pay, he gives this man 10 cities. Now, a city is worth a whole lot more than 3 months' pay, right? When he honors him, he really honors him. The second came, saying, Master, your mina has earned 5 minas. Likewise, he said to him, you also be over 5 cities. And notice how proportionate this was. Then another came, saying, Master, here's your mina, which I have kept put away in a handkerchief. For I feared you because you were an austere man. You collect what you did not deposit. You reap what you did not sow. He said to him, out of your own mouth I will judge you, you wicked servant. You knew that I was an austere man, collecting what I did not deposit, reaping what I did not sow. Why then did you not take my money put my money in the bank? At my coming, I might have collected it with interest. I'm going to stop there this morning. Okay, Dad, the first D was discover the truth, right? Discover the truth about God's principles of finances, which were, I've forgotten them. Well, you tell me what they were. Everything belongs to God. We're the managers, right? He owns it all. Ownership and management, that's what it was. Ownership and stewardship. Yeah, he's the owner. He owns it all. Okay, we're the stewards to take care of what He has given to us. Okay, we own nothing, right, kids? Nod your head this way. Okay, right. Even your Legos, you don't get they're not yours. They're actually God's. You're to honor God with your Legos. You shouldn't throw them at your little sisters or anything like that. Okay, you're to honor God even with those. Okay, so we discovered the truth about that. A stood for being an advocate for our children. Okay, we're to fight for the cause. We're to do everything we can to help them in this area. Okay, and I gave you 4 principles for that last week. This next D stands for do the work. And I'm going to give you this morning 5 action plans that you need to be doing with your kids on a regular basis and for yourselves if you haven't learned them, okay? But 5 things that you need to be doing with your children. James says in James 1:22, be ye doers of the word, not hearers only, okay? It is not enough to come to church and hear a message preached, okay? I prepare messages not so you'll listen to them. I prepare messages so that you will take the principles that I preach and take them home and do them. Okay? Same thing is true about God's Word. God's Word is there so that we can read it, but not just read it and not just listen to it, but do the things that are in it. Okay? So we're to be doers. It's not enough to learn about finances, know about finances, if you're not doing the principles of finances. Okay? So it's not enough for you to just talk to your kids. You must also walk the walk before your children. So what are these action plans? We're going to start off, first of all, with the word generosity. Okay? Generosity. The one thing that you need to be teaching your children on a regular basis is that you be generous, okay? Teach them generosity. God never placed us on this earth to accumulate. Did you know that? God never placed you on this earth so that you could just get more and more things and more stuff, okay? And I know some people just are consumed about getting more and more things, okay? Brent and I met a guy one time, and they invited us over to their house for a Sunday night dinner snack type of deal. And we went to his house afterwards, and when we got there, he said, you want to watch a movie? We said, well, yeah, I guess we can stick around and watch a movie. What are we going to watch? He said, well, I don't know, you pick one. And then he takes us around this corner, and there is the guy could have run his own store. Okay, I'm just telling you right now, he could have run his own video store. He had every movie, I think, ever made known to man. Okay? And he said, well, we got all these, and around this hallway here, I got all these, and if you go downstairs, we got, and I'm going, are you kidding me? And I'm thinking, I just want to sell them all, and get $5 for each one, or give me $1 for each one, I'd probably have $10,000. He had more movies I'd ever seen in my life. And he said, yeah, my goal is just to kind of get every movie out there. And I'm thinking, why? Okay, but I didn't ask him why, but that was his thing, okay? And he was getting all this stuff and getting more and more stuff. Most kids just die if they can't get the latest gaming system, right? You know, as soon as it comes out, Dad, we got to get the new gaming system because all the other kids have it, and I won't be able to function if I don't get it, and I'll just have all these jitters, okay? And you dads, about that time, you're thinking he's really bad and there's a problem with him. As soon as the new phone comes out, you're going, I got to get the new phone. I got to get the new phone because it's the coolest phone, and I got to get the latest whatever it is, pad, gadget, phone, you know, earplug, whatever. You know, I got to get it because it's an thing, and it's for it's for me, okay? And some of you you can't live, you know, if you don't have all this stuff, right? And the latest and the greatest and the newest and the thing. And some of you, and I don't know if anybody in this room is like this now, but you know, there's those weird, crazy people who will like camp out like 5 days before the phone comes out, you know, and sleep in their tent, and people bring them food. Okay, if you're one of those people, I will pray for you. You are sick, okay? You are sick, okay? 2 boys were sitting at the breakfast table. One of them was 3 and the other was 5. And the boys began arguing over who would get the first pancake. And so their father, wanting to teach them a biblical lesson, said to them, you know, if Jesus were sitting here, he would say, let my brother have the first pancake, and I can wait. And about that time, the older one turned to the younger one and said, okay, you be Jesus first. Okay, so... See, kids understand biblical principles of money, okay? They understand this getting and giving, all those kinds of things. Go to the nursery, watch the nursery some Sunday, and if there's 2 children in there, you will learn real fast that they know what is mine and how things work and what you should share and what not to share. Listen, you have to teach kids generosity. It just doesn't come natural. In Luke 12, Bible tells us about 2 brothers who came to Jesus arguing over an inheritance. In fact, we're real close here, so just turn back a few pages. By the way, the whiteboard, I'm not even going to use it till like our last point of the day, so don't, you know, what's he going to do with that? He's almost done preaching and he hasn't used it yet. We will. Verse 13 in chapter 12, it says, then one of the crowd said to him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Don't you love these guys? Are these 2 brothers or what? 2 squabbling brothers. Master, Jesus, tell him to give me my inheritance, okay? But he said to him, Man, who made me a judge or an arbitrator over you? And he said to them, Take heed and beware of covetousness. For one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses. Boy, if we could learn that. Oh, that we could learn that. Your life does not consist in all the things that you have. And then he spoke a parable to them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man yielded plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do, since I have no room to store my crops? So he said, I'll do this. I'll pull down my barns and build greater, and then I will store all my crops and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, be merry. But God said to him, Fool, this night your soul will be required of you. And then whose will those things be which you have provided? So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. These 2 brothers are fighting. Christ says, listen, beware of covetousness. One's life does not consist in the things that you possess. And then he reminds them, listen, you have no clue how much time you have. You can spend your whole life getting and taking in and hoarding and gathering more stuff. And you can tear down your houses and build bigger houses to get more stuff. And all it is at the end of your life is stuff. It's just stuff. It's just stuff that gets dusty and rots and withers away. And none of it does you any good. You can't take any of it to heaven with you, you know. We've used the saying 1,000 times, you never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul, do you? You know, nobody takes it with them, okay? I go to a lot of funerals. I've never seen a U-Haul parked out front yet, okay? If it was because the kids had already cleaned out the house and are getting ready to leave town. But even then, you know, and boy, this is typical too. 2 brothers fighting over an inheritance. In the business I'm in, it is not uncommon for me to call someone. I say, how things are going, you know, how are you doing right now? And they say, well, it'd be pretty good if everybody wasn't fighting over all the stuff, all the things. I had a lady tell me last week, I said, how's things going for you? She said, well, it'd be pretty good, but my daughter is suing me right now for what she thinks she should get out of the house. And, you know, the husband left a will, but she's contesting the will. And I thought, how sad. You know, I'm so thankful that when my parents died, Brenda and I were living in Southern California, and when they died, I told my other brothers and sisters, you go do whatever you want, send me something if there's left. If there's anything's left, and you know, if you think I want it, ask me. But you know, if it all gets pitched, then that's fine too. I wasn't out to get the stuff because I've seen the way the stuff can just divide families, and it happens more and more and more all the time. So, what should we do with what we have? We must learn to be generous. Jesus said, "We will always have the poor with us. There will always be opportunities to give." Matthew chapter 6:20 tells us that we're to lay up treasures in heaven. The things of this earth, they just rot and they rust. I heard the story of 2 men who, one man who didn't have a whole lot, another man who was very wealthy, and they died and they went to heaven. And they got there, and then Peter was taking them around. He took the poor man to his house, and he had this huge mansion. It was just beautiful. And he said, "Wow, that's man said, that's really nice. I really appreciate that, and I'm really amazed that I get this house." And the wealthy man thought, "Wow, I must really have a nice place to live then if that was his." And he was the poor beggar type guy on earth, and so they kind of show him a little shack next to the poor man's house, this mansion, and there's this little shack there. And Peter says, "Well, that's your house." And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, we can only do with what you sent ahead. We can only work with what you sent ahead, and you didn't send anything ahead." He wouldn't lay up treasures for himself in heaven. He was spending it all and wasted it all here on earth. And you know what? You say, "Well, Brother Jeff, I think our kids should be generous, but what do we do with it?" Listen, God has always taught us and always told us that we need to give sacrificially. One way we can obviously give is through money, but not just money, but money is being one of the ways, but we're to give sacrificially. Jesus commended the widow because of her sacrificial gift. But there's more than ways in that. There's you can give food and clothing and things like that. Donating to a shelter of some type. We're going to do a thing here. We're going to kick off here this week in Awana, Coats for Kids. You've seen the Coats for Kids, things like that around town. And we're going to challenge our kids, but adults, this is for you too. Dig around your closet, look through, see if you've got some old coats. Some of us have 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 coats, don't we? You open up that downstairs closet and you go, "What am I going to do with all these coats?" Okay? And let me challenge you to get involved in that project. But let me issue a greater challenge. Okay? Don't dig through the closet and get the coat that's got the big stain down the front that you don't want to wear anyway. It's got the holes in the pockets, so when you put your keys in them, they kind of end up back over here, something like that. I've got a couple of coats like that. Okay? But don't do it. How about going out and just really doing something crazy and buying a new coat for a kid or for an adult or someone just your size, okay? And what a blessing you could be to somebody. Listen, I don't know about you, but I hate wintertime, okay? I hate wintertime. I hate being cold, okay? Went to a football game, Bonner Springs football game. Of all the football games in the world we could have picked last Friday night to go to. I mean, not that game, but of all the games we could have picked the whole year long, we had to pick the one that was 37 degrees outside, okay? And it was cold. I felt so sorry for the kids. They're probably blowing on those trumpets and stuff, their mouth sticking to the little tuba thing, little mouthpiece. I don't know how they keep those things warm, but I mean, it was cold. And that wasn't even a cold night. And there's people that are homeless and people who don't have coats who would do anything for a jacket or some kind of a cover-up. And what a blessing you can be. And we're going to challenge you to be involved in the Coats for Kids thing. But teach your kids, be generous, okay? Look and see what they've got. Let them be a part of that, okay? Just don't go to your kids' closet and clean out some other coats and give them away. Let them do it. Let that be a part of it. Teach your children to be generous and meeting the needs of others. That's why when sometimes people are depressed and discouraged, I will always tell them to, just down, depressed, I'm discouraged, I don't know what to do. I don't say, "Well, go take a pill, you'll feel better." I always say, why don't you go home and do something nice for someone else? Go home and bake some cookies and take them to somebody else. And you'd be amazed how many times they'll do that, and they'll call me back and say, "Wow, I had so much fun doing that." And that was a blast. And I love that. What happened? They got their mind off themselves for a little while, ministered to somebody else, and they received a blessing from it. The second thing that dads, we must teach our children, and again, in Luke 16, I think we have an example of this, is to just simply have wisdom, okay? Use wisdom. Use wisdom in the things that you do. And let's read this, and then we'll talk about what wisdom looks like. Jesus said again, notice how many times different passages we've looked at here, and Jesus is talking about money and stewardship, okay? It's all through the Bible. In chapter 16, he said to his disciples, "There was a certain rich man who had a steward, and an accusation was brought against him that this man was wasting his goods. So he called him and said to him, 'What is this that I hear about you? Give an account of your stewardship, for you can no longer be steward.'" He said, this guy was in charge of the finances of the master's home. The master calls him in and says, "Hey, listen, I'm here and you're not doing a good job. You keep up this nonsense and I'm replacing you. You can't be steward and act like this." So verse 3, "Then the steward said within himself, 'What shall I do?' He doesn't want to lose his job. 'For my master is taking the stewardship away from me. I cannot dig. I'm too ashamed to beg.'" He said, "I'm not a farmer. I'm an accountant, okay? I'm ashamed to beg. I don't want to go out and beg people. So here's what I'll do." Verse 4, "I have resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses." He says, "I'm going to go treat some people nice so that when I do lose my job, I've got a place to live." Verse 5, "So he called every one of his master's debtors to him and said to the first, 'How much do you owe my master?' And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said to him, 'Take your bill, sit down quickly, and write out 50. Then he said to another, 'And how much do you owe?' And he said, 'Well, I owe 100 measures of wheat.' And he said to him, 'Take your bill and write 80. And so the master, so what the guy's doing is says, 'Listen, we've got a sale on wheat. Okay, we got a sale on oil today, all right? Instead of paying $100 or 100, whatever it is, 100 measures or whatever, he says, you just pay 50. And the guy's going, this is great. I just made a new friend in the accounting business, okay? Sure, I'll pay you 50 instead of 100, and we'll just make the bill, wipe the bill clean. Then the other guy says, well, you pay 80 for the wheat instead of 100, and again, your bill will be clean. And the guy's like, well, sure, I'll be glad to do that. I can handle that. That sounds pretty good to me. Now he's also making friends with these guys. They like him, okay? And so verse 8, the master commended the unjust steward because he had dealt shrewdly. And by the way, that word shrewdly is not a negative word here, okay? We in our culture, we think of somebody who's shrewd, they're like, oh, they're evil, they're backstabbing, they're trickery, they're trying to get money out of me or something like that. It's not what the word means here at all. I'll give you the definition in just a moment. But basically, it just means wisely, okay? He had dealt wisely, for the sons of this world are more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light. And I say to you, make friends for yourselves by unrighteous mammon, that when you fall or fail, they may receive you into an everlasting home. He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. And he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much. Therefore, if you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, and remember that word we said means money a couple weeks ago, who will commit to you trust the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in what is another man's, who will give you what is your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and, there's that word again, money or mammon. Okay? Now, what does this wisdom look like? What are some ways that you can be wise in finances? Well, a couple things real simple. First of all, stay out of debt. Okay, stay out of debt. Now, I know you probably haven't taught your kids a lot about interest yet, okay? But interest is a killer, okay? Interest is not your friend, okay? Credit cards are not your friend, okay? Credit card companies, they love you because you use a little credit card and you just swipe it down the little machine and you all agree to pay $50 for something and this price tag says $50 and the cashier charges you $50, but at the end of the month you get a bill for $55. Just because you use that little card and you decided to put that on credit, okay? And you get to pay what's called interest charges on that. But stay out of debt, because with debt, becomes more debt. And on top of that comes more debt. And on top of that, eventually some more debt. What does the Bible say about debt? The borrower is servant to the lender. Why is that? Because if you're lending money, or if a person was lending money to you, they're the ones in control. They're the ones who send you the bill. They're the ones who say pay up. They're the ones who say, we're not sending you anymore until you do pay up. They're the ones in control. Pay your bills. Pay them on time. Okay, don't pay penalties. If it says it's due on the 19th, put it in the mail the 17th, okay? Or the 15th, whatever you got to do to keep paying penalties. You can believe how many people I've met who pay their bills and they say, well, I forgot to put it in the mail. And now I've got a $5 charge because I'm late. Or now I've got a $10 charge. Or now I've got this charge because I was just late on my bill. There's no reason to be late on your bills. Just pay them on time, okay? Make sure you get ahead and make sure you're on time. Shop for the best prices on everything. On everything. Just be wise about that. Car insurance, health insurance, shop at the Goodwill, okay? Y'all like this shirt? I think it's a good-looking shirt. I think I look pretty good in this shirt, okay? Fits me good. $2 on clearance, on sale at Salvation Army, okay? That's a good deal. Okay, I've checked it all over. Can't find any flaws. Well, except for this part right here. It's a little larger than it should be. But $2. $2. Like I said, I thought it was going to be $3, and I was going to splurge on the $3. And I got up there and they said, this is the blue sticker discount day, and it's only $2. I said, yeah, baby, I can dig on that. Okay, $2. $2, okay? I mean, just shop. Be thrifty. My sons, I love it when my sons call me. One day, I'll never forget, Rick sent me a text, okay? And he said, hey, Dad, just got 3 shirts, $10, at the thrift store. And I'm going, that's my boy. That's my boy, right on. I had a good preacher friend of mine one time named Frank Lidke, pastored in Arlington, Texas, and I had him up to speak for a pastor's conference I was doing in Arkansas. And he came in and he preached, and I said, so what do you want to do today? Let's kill some time. He said, I want to go to all your thrift stores. I said, you're kidding. He said, no. So I love shopping thrift stores. And that day he went around and he loved the Izod shirts and is Izod and Polo the same thing? No, okay. You can tell I don't. But he loved Izod and Polo. And, I know the Polo is the guy with little playing polo. The little guy on the horse playing polo. I don't know what Izods are. Probably says Izod or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, what they're and he just loved those shirts. And he would go to thrift stores, and that's all he would look for. And he'd be ching, 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 ching. Oh, look at that one, preacher. And he'd flip it around. It looked pretty good. And he grabbed. He brought about 25 shirts that day. Paid a total of about $50 for all of them. And he said, by the way, he said, all these aren't for me. He said, I got a staff member who likes to wear them too, and I know this other guy too. He said, I'll give, probably 3/4 of these away, so I'll keep 3 or 4 for myself. But I got all these guys down in Texas that, he said, that's what we do. And he taught his staff, he taught his people around, be thrifty, be wise. Go to thrift shops and just, that's where you buy your clothes. When our boys played sports, sporting equipment is expensive. People say, I can't believe you have your kids in those competitive sports and you just pay all that money. If they only knew. Okay? Play It Again Sports is the greatest place ever invented. Okay? We take all of our unused junk and trade it in for their used junk. Okay? And we'd wear it for about a year, and, a pair of cleats, it's half worn out, but they were good enough to get through that season. Kids' feet grow this far every year anyway, right? And so we'd buy a pair of cleats. They'd wear them 1 year. We'd take them down there, trade them for a bigger pair. And we love that place. Play It Again Sports, baseball bats, all these kids that show up with these $300, $400 bats. Yeah, right. Not our kids. We're buying the one off the shelf from 2 years ago, and we're getting it on clearance and everything out. And everybody thinks, wow, they got a brand new bat. In fact, I'll never forget one time we saved our money, and for Christmas we bought our son a bat. And one of the church members somehow found out that we'd bought our son a baseball bat. And I think we paid $50 or $60 for this like $400 bat. Okay, and it got back to the preacher, and in fact we were criticized and got called in and said, well, we really think you're wasting your money and you're really not using your money wisely because you bought that $400 bat. And I'm going, dudes, do you think do I look like somebody who can spend $400 for a bat? I about a $2 shirt. Get off my back, And so, by the way, you never know what people are paying for things. That's one reason you should never be critical. We had a family leave our church one time because we bought a car, and we bought a Mercury Sable, and got a dealer price on it, and got a really good deal on it, and went to a dealership, and he gave us about $100 under his cost, and so on. So bought this car. A guy walked up, thought it was a Lexus, and they left the church over it. Because they said, well, we're paying the staff too much. They went and bought a Lexus. And I don't know if you know anything about Mercuries and Lexuses, but the symbol on the front looks a little bit, one's an L and one's a upside down L, I guess. I don't know. But he thought it was late, and they left the church because they thought they were paying the staff too much because I bought a Lexus. And by the way, I didn't buy a Lexus, okay? Just so you know, okay? I couldn't if I wanted to. I wouldn't if I could, probably, all right? I knew a family that had a list in their car. Had a little flip chart, and they'd written down in the car every place where kids eat free and on what days they eat. So like when the kids go, Mom, I'm gonna just eat dinner. Can we go out to eat? And she'd go, yeah, this is Tuesday. Oh, yep, Sonic hamburgers, half price. All right, we're going to Sonic. Or, it's pizza shop. Kids eat free on Tuesday night. There was no choice. There was no fighting and arguing about where you're going because the book already told you. Okay, this is where we're going. Kids eat free. And they had a whole list like that. It was great. And I'm thinking, that's smart. Okay, that's being wise. Coupons. Coupon yourself to death. All right? Put coupons in your cars. When somebody says, where do we eat? You say, well, we're eating at Sonic because it's buy one, get one free. Or we're eating at Burger King because we got to buy one, get one free. You use that kind of stuff, okay? Brenda and I do this, but invariably we're in the wrong car. In fact, we did this yesterday. She's like, I got a coupon. Open up. Oh, that's my car. Yeah, so we were stuck, okay? And we had to. We went to QT, actually. Well, never. That's another story. So, shop at clearance items, okay? Shop clearance items, all right? Now is not the time, by the way, to buy a big screen TV, okay? Wait about 2 months. Wait for the big sales to happen. Now is a great time. If you need a lawnmower, go buy a lawnmower now. But don't buy a lawnmower in March or April or May, okay? They're going to jack the price up and go get one now while it was cheaper. Just be wise. Know that kind of stuff, okay? Talk to Eric and Tim. They can tell you the best time to buy a new car. Or, by the way, never, ever, ever buy a new car. That would be the best thing to say, okay? Never, ever buy a new car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, you've lost thousands of dollars, okay? Buy clothes slightly big, okay? That's just wise. Let kids grow into them, all right? Moving on here. Number 3 is effectiveness. I'm not going to look at all these scriptures, but by the way, I'm just saying teach your kids this stuff, okay? And why you do it. Dad, why are we shopping at Goodwill? Because they got better deals, okay? Effectiveness. By this we mean look at the outcome and make sure it's done well. Okay, look at the outcome and make sure it's done well. What is it our parents always told us? Any job worth doing is what? Worth doing right. Okay, make sure when you get a job done or you're doing something, do it well. Do it right the first time. Okay, learn the value of investing. Teach your kids the value of investing. The word effective is a biblical word, by the way. Paul wanted his journey and his work in Ephesus to be effective in 1 Corinthians 15. James 5:16, the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. So this is a biblical word. If you're going to do something, make sure it's effective. Do it right, okay? Do it properly. Nothing is more frustrating than spending money on something and finding out that your expenditure was not effective, right? Or you didn't get what you paid for, okay? Nothing's more frustrating than that. And so with along that is really the next word, which is efficiency, okay? Efficiency. Effectiveness and efficiency. They almost sound alike, but they are slightly different. The words may mean, or effectiveness is getting the desired results. Efficiency has to do with how the results were achieved. And both of them, by the way, are very important. You want and you need both. For example, let's say you take your car in to get it fixed, okay? And you need a new transmission, okay? One guy says, I can do it in 30 minutes, okay? And you'll probably get it back in 30 minutes, but it's not going to be effective, right? It's not going to be fixed because it takes longer to do a transmission than 30 minutes. Or another guy might say, well, I can get it to you 6 months. Okay? Now it's not efficient. Okay? It might be effective and it might work right, but you probably can't stand to do without your car for 6 months. Okay? You need both of these. Okay? A lot of illustrations along this way. Let's say you're in a boat. You're going up a river. Trying to explain these the best way so our kids will understand. Let's say you're in a boat, you're going up a river, and you're going 10 miles an hour. Okay? Well, let's say the water is coming, the speed of the water is 10 miles an hour against you. And so for the next hour, you burn a lot of gas, and you burn a lot of oil, and you waste an hour, and you use a lot of energy, and what happens? You've gone nowhere, right? You're still sitting by the same tree off the bank that you've been for the last hour. You've not been efficient, okay? And you've not been effective either. Okay, because you haven't counteracted what you needed to do. For you kids, kind of an illustration here. Mom and Dad send you to clean your room, right? You can't come out of your room till it's clean. Have any of your parents ever told, any of your kids ever been told that by your parents? Okay, we need to have a talk, parents. Okay, one. Okay, that's me, preacher. Okay, you have to go to your room. You have to clean your room. You can't come out until it's clean. Okay, and so you have a choice on what you clean first, right? And you have to be effective. You want them to get the room clean, but you also have to be efficient at the same time. In other words, if you take all your little army men and you dust each one and you clean the crevices and you soak them in water and you polish them and you set them all up, and that takes you 2 hours, you were effective. You got those cleaned, but you weren't efficient because you still have a lot of other room to clean. Does that make sense? Kids understand this. Adults, we struggle with this sometimes, okay? Another example, if you invest $50 a month and the company charges you $60 to invest your money, is this wise? No. Shake your head this way, okay? When I worked at Target, and I love this story because it was so funny at the time, there are a lot of times that Danielle would be gone and I would have to fill in for her. And so one day I filled in for her on her day off, and she was gone. And so in Target World is great because if you haven't, if they think you need help, they'll just send you anybody who has a red shirt on, even customers. Don, don't go to Target today. They'll put you to work. He's got a red shirt on. Just grab him, put him to work. And so kind of like on the fly, you got to train somebody, to do what you're doing. So they sent us a guy one day, and then they called me away. And I said, well, while you're here, and we were just cleaning some shelves, Cleaning shelves, not too difficult, You spray some stuff on them, you wipe them down, you clean the shelf. And so I got him cleaning some shelves, and I left, and I came back like 45 minutes later, and he was still working on the same shelf. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you something about that shelf. You could have eaten off that shelf. You could have, in fact, that thing was so clean, most of the paint was scraped off. And I mean, this was the cleanest shelf the world has ever seen. But there was a problem. There were still 23 more shelves that I would hope that he had been cleaning that would have taken about 10 minutes. Effectiveness, efficiency. We get it? Okay? And you've got to train your kids to do both, okay? When it comes to spending, okay? And here's where I kind of want to go to the board for just a second, because let's apply all this. There they are. I knew I put them somewhere. Y'all want blue? Blue's a pretty color. Okay. I was going to put this here because I'm right-handed, then I realized I'd cover up the screen. So, But just let's say you bring home your paycheck, all right, and you make $500 for the week, okay? You've made $500. I just left my eraser over there. But how much do you really bring home, parents? You can help me out here. You get $500, but what do you bring home? How much? Yeah, we're going to say 20%, okay, that goes to taxes. So if you're lucky, you'll bring home about $400, okay? If you're lucky. Actually, taxes now more like 21, 22, 23, 24, something like that, okay? Of course, you're going to tithe on this, right? How much is your tithe on this, kids? What's 10% of 500, kids? 50, okay? So you're going to tithe on that because you're a good Christian, okay? And but then you have to live, right? You have to pay house payment and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to say your house payment's around $500 a month. Some of you wish. Okay, some of you wish it was, yeah. So we're going to cut that down to about $225, all right? And then, of course, you have to get to work and back and forth, and you got to buy gas. So now you're down about, because you got to fill up a tank of gas once a week. Now you're about down $175. This car that you're driving, you also have to pay insurance on it. So you're down to about $150. And, of course, you got to make a car payment. We're going to assume it's a $200 car payment. Some of you would really like to have a $200 car payment, wouldn't you? And there's only one problem here. Of course, you also have to repair your car from time to time. Now you're down about $75 for the week. And you have license and tags and all that stuff that you also have to add to it. And there's a problem here because you haven't eaten yet. And you also haven't turned on your lights yet at your house, right? Like utility bills and water, you know. And your kids, when you turn on the water to brush your teeth and you leave it on for like 7 minutes, your parents are going, well, wasting water, okay? Why do they do that? Because you got to pay, you have a phone bill. We're going to say it's $25 a week. Yeah, right. It's probably more like $50 a week for all your phones and everything else. Point is here, how efficient are you and how effective in accomplishing what you need to accomplish? Maybe not very good, right? Because even though you're making $500 a week, it's going out pretty rapidly and you still haven't eaten, okay? And you still haven't turned on the lights yet. You said, Brother Jeff, what do we do in a case like this? Well, you have two choices. You can either spend $700 a week, and what's going to happen if we do that? Yeah, this is not good, okay? Kim, you just got a job for the government. I'm proud of you, okay? Because they haven't figured out this concept yet. But you know, if you're spending $700 but you're only bringing home $500, eventually you're going to be in big trouble, okay? In fact, if it's your first paycheck ever, okay, you're going to be in trouble right away, okay? Or you have to do something that takes us to our fifth point. You have to do something called what? We hate this word, don't we? Discipline. That's your fifth point this morning. You know, we don't have a problem talking about discipline when it comes to diet. We don't have a problem talking about discipline when it's for somebody else to be disciplined, right? Oh, we just discipline our kids. Well, I'm glad you do. But when we have to talk about us being disciplined, this is like the world's worst eraser. All right, babe, put that on our project. Holy cow. Oh, well, let's get rid of the board then. This is not an efficient or effective board, okay? It's just so you know, all right? Yeah, I think this is in the budget, okay? And we might need a tripod to go with it because I think it's starting to fade back already. But don't we hate the word discipline? And it's still there, so you can still read it, okay? We like it for everybody else. Everything else, don't mind and die. But we hate it for us. Kids, let me help you out here. Kids, if your parents give you $10 allowance each week, how much can you spend? Your parents give you $10, how much can you spend? Okay, good. Josh is a good tither there, so he's going to tithe. Yeah. And so you have $9 to spend because that dollar is the Lord's, right? Now, what happens if you spend 15? Okay. Where's this other $6 going to come from? Okay. Means you have to get it from somebody else, right? You either have to borrow it or, hey, I've got that in my notes. I've got it in my notes, by the way. I've got that. You either have to steal it, well, you know, he's a pretty good Christian because he's already tithed, so I don't think he's going to steal it. Okay, so, but that is, you're either going to have to steal it, you have to get it somewhere, or someone's going to have to give it to you, okay, or you're going to have to borrow it, okay. And let's say, Josh, that you want to spend $15, but you only have $9. And I say, hey, Josh, I'll loan you the $6. In fact, better yet, because I'm a credit card company, I'll give you $10. and I'll give you a little extra money that you really don't need. Okay? Now, who's in charge of this situation, Josh or me? I'm in control. Because at any time I can go back to Josh, especially since I'm a little bigger than Josh, and I can go back to Josh and say, Josh, I want my $10 back. And what if he doesn't have it? Yeah, now I'm going to say, well, Josh, since you don't have the $10, there's going to be a penalty for that, and now I'm going to charge you $12. There goes my leg again. I'm going to charge you $12, Josh, because you don't have that. And every month you don't have that, Josh, I'm going to charge you another $2. And now you're owing me. Remember, if you just spent the $9, look at all the money you saved, but now you spent $9 plus you still owe me, and you owe me $16. That's how interest works. That's how credit cards work. That's how not paying your bills works. Okay, this is how getting into debt works. And I'm in control. Your credit card company is in control. Your landlord is in control. Your house mortgage people are in control. Okay, your car payment people are in control. Anytime we're in debt, we are not in control. So what does Josh have to do here? He has to exercise some discipline. He has to say, well, you know, the toy costs $15, but I've only got $9, so I'm going to have to wait until I get my next allowance. And I have to save it. And then when I have the 18, after 2 weeks, then I can buy this toy for $15, and I'll actually still have 3 left over. Now, I wish our federal government would learn this little simple principle, because they've yet to figure this out. Here's the rule, folks. If your intake, you have 2 things that you have every week. You have intake and you have outgo. Okay, we all understand that? If your intake is, we'll just say X amount of dollars here, but your outgo is more, in other words, your outgo is up here, what's that going to make this number here? A big minus, right? You're going to lose money. No matter how hard you try and figure it out, you're going to lose money. If your outgo, if you're sending more out than you're bringing in, you will always be in trouble. And so if this is the problem, then you have to make sure this gets down here. This is Finances 101. You have to make sure your intake is more than your outgo, so at the end of every week or end of every month, you have a plus number there. Okay? Now, our government, just because I feel like being political at the moment, okay? Our government brings in about $2 million. Is it a month? Or $1 billion? I think it's a year, or it's a year or something. Anyway, but they bring in $2 billion and they send out $3 billion. Now, the very simple principles that I've taught you, Elijah, what's going to happen if that continues to happen? They're in trouble, right? The outgoes more than the income. So what do they have to do? They have to what? Borrow from somebody. Who would they borrow from? This is water. It's from this country over here, right? So they have to borrow from somebody else. And now who owns America? This is the United States. Beautiful picture of the U.S. And who owns us? This country over here, right? It's not a complicated principle. You can only spend what you have. You don't get to spend what you don't have, okay? And if you do, that means you have to borrow it from somebody else. By the way, and not to be mean and ugly here, but if you receive any type of government assistance in any way, shape, or form from our government, okay, where do you think the government gets that money? Yeah, it comes from somebody else who pays taxes. The government doesn't pull money off trees, because we don't have tree-growing money in our world. It'd be nice if we did, but we don't. And so if they need to send you money, that means they have to take it from somebody else to give it to you. It's a principle we call socialism, okay, which is what our government is really working hard to get to, which is why it's not even a biblical principle to be having the government send you money, because that means they're taking it from somebody else to give it to you. Now, Paul said in 1 Corinthians 9, he said there's a lot of things that our body craves, right? Isn't there? Food, pleasure, wealth, games, fun, entertainment. But listen, I have to keep this body under subjection. I have to, okay? I don't get to do whatever I want to with this body. I don't get to jump off buildings and see if my body can fly. How come? Because there's a greater law, isn't there? The law of gravity that says if you do that, you will die. Okay? I don't get to just spend my money anywhere I want to, because God has some laws, financial laws, that I have to follow. I have bills that I have to pay, so therefore I just can't go to the Royals games or the Chiefs games every time I want to go just because I think it would be fun if I don't have the money to do it. I have to be disciplined. And Paul kind of uses a funny illustration in that same chapter when he says, sometimes I have to beat my body into subjection. You know what that means? He's saying sometimes I have to beat myself up. In other words, to discipline myself and say, no, 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 you don't get to do this today because you can't afford it. And he says, sometimes I have to have a fist fight with myself, beat my body up. That's kind of what he's saying. 2 Thessalonians 3, verse 10 and 11 says, if man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. It's a pretty simple principle. If you don't have the money, you don't spend it. You don't get to. You can't. I want to wrap up with this little thing that I came across, and I like the way this author puts it. And it just he explained it so clearly that I thought I'll just use this. He says, the applications for your children and their understanding of money should be obvious. When they start managing money, they will be tempted to take those first nickels and dimes and head to the store for as much candy and toys as they can get. In time, with your help, they'll learn that by saving their money and waiting a few weeks, months, or even years, they can afford things that may be much better and longer lasting. At the start, their discipline or lack of discipline will affect their decisions about toys and candies. But here's the key. But through the years, the stakes will only get higher. By the time they leave your home, they'll be making decisions involving money that could have life-changing ramifications. It is vital that we train our children to have discipline. It will benefit them in their stewardship of money, but also in many other areas of life. For most children, living by God's directions while at home under mom and dad's watchful eyes is much easier than continuing to follow those directions after they leave home when no one is watching. That's when their discipline will really be put to the test. Our best course of action is to prepare them for that day now, help them learn about the benefits of discipline and how they will be blessed when they follow God's desires for their daily lives. And mom and dads, that's our responsibility. That's dad sense. Okay, that's common sense. Learning to live in what we have. Let's bow our heads this morning.